Hi everyone, this is Summer from Kind Theory, and today I've got a few updates for you. The first update is that this is my last session with you guys for Nourish Diversity, because I will be traveling overseas for the next 2 months, and I wouldn't be able to do the next 2 sessions with you guys. And as sad as I am, I'm happy as well that we did it all together, and it was amazing. So thank you to everyone who supported us and who joined us. This is my parting speech, but this is not your parting speech at all, because I have my friend here with me, Dr. Laura Z. Belden, who is going to be hosting the next few sessions. All right, so we are on our 4th session, the Nourish Diversity program. By now, all of you should be aware of what Kind Theory is, but just to kind of give a little bit of intro, it's a neurodiversity-based nonprofit in the Texas area. The rest I'll leave to Laura if she feels like discussing that. So Laura Z. Belden, Dr. Laura Z. Belden, is not only a good friend, which I like to call her now, but she's also our board chair. She is a neurodivergent naturopathic physician who loves exploring how people think, feel, sense, and connect. Dr. Belden earned a doctorate in naturopathic medicine and a master's degree in integrative mental health. Her interdisciplinary research currently focuses on the pathophysiology and treatment of autistic burnout, and her work advocates for neurodiversity paradigm shift across both medicine and society. And we wouldn't have been where we are today without Laura's help at all, because when I first reached out to Laura, she was all in for the mission, and I don't have words to appreciate her for what she does for us, and essentially who she is. I don't have words to appreciate her for that. So I'm going to pass the torch now to Laura, and Laura, you have my blessing.
Thank you so much, Shamar. That was an incredibly kind introduction. Again, you all have been here. Today is the 4th session, so by now we know how amazing Becca is. But just briefly, Becca King is a registered dietitian nutritionist from Charlotte, North Carolina, who specializes in helping people who have ADHD, who are ADHD, whatever language you're using, and who want to have more freedom around food and intuitive eating. And today, we'll start with some housekeeping rules, just some quick reminders to please mute your microphone when you're not speaking. You're welcome to use the chat feature if you have any questions or comments that you want to address in real time during the session. We will have some dedicated time at the end for a question and answer session if you would rather wait until then. And if you have any technical difficulties in the meantime, again, please use that chat box to let the host or moderator know, and use the raise hand feature if you need to speak or would like to ask a question verbally. We are on month 4, which is practical meal planning strategies for ADHD-ers. And our activity today will be creating a nutrition 911 plan. This is today's agenda. And with that, I will pass the torch over to Becca.
I'm excited to talk about meal planning because I feel like I get a lot of questions about this.
This is going to be my favorite month so far.
Yay. So my goal is to kind of go through some different tips or considerations for meal planning. And then at the end, we'll do the nutrition 911 plan, which is basically going to be a little activity where we'll kind of compile all of your go-to meals and snacks and kind of rate them by how many spoons, if you're familiar with spoon theory, how many spoons it takes to, make that meal or snack or whatever is for you. So that way you can kind of use spoon theory in a way if you can't decide what to eat, to go look at that menu and see, how much executive function or energy do I have to make a meal, and what would be realistic with where you're at with that. So I'm excited. It's I like doing that, and strategizing or coming up with meals too. If you guys need ideas, is always a fun thing too. So we're kind of going to go through 9 different tips for meal planning, or things to consider. Building a routine, keeping things simple. We'll talk about some different ways you can incorporate visual aids into meal planning. how to get others involved in the process or even have some extra support around meal planning, ways to create a meal plan and a grocery list along with that, so you know what to get at the store after you get those, figure out what you might have to eat for the week. I'm going to share the pick 3 style of meal planning, which is something a lot of my clients find as an easier way to kind of plan out meals for the week. We'll talk about meal prepping and kind of the pros and cons of that, because I know for a lot of ADHD-ers, the traditional style of meal prepping where you like spend your whole Sunday in the kitchen making lots of food just doesn't work for a lot of us. It took me a really long time to understand why and accept that like I don't have to do that to prepare meals for myself, and that's okay. When I was in grad school, I was like, all of my friends meal prep, but I just don't get why I can't wrap my head around meal prepping. And I think there's different ways you can do meal prepping that isn't just more traditional route. Some ways to use reminders to help with meal planning. And then at the end, we can talk about some ways to incorporate gentle nutrition or some considerations with that, so that we have meals and snacks that, you know, keep us full and give us all of some of the different nutrients that we need that we talked about last week. So with building a routine with meal planning itself, I would try and figure out a day of the week, and ideally maybe a time that during that day to meal plan, and also consider grocery shopping and food prep. So you might want to some people find it helpful to kind of divide out some of those tasks over days versus doing it all in one day, because that can feel exhausting and overwhelming, because there's a lot of steps in that process, from deciding what to eat to going to the store to getting everything there and then bring everything back, putting it away. And then if you are going to do any prep, kind of figuring that out. Personally, we do like meal planning kind of on like Saturdays, and then Sundays or Mondays we'll go to the grocery store, and my partner is amazing and loves to do food prep, so he handles that task, which is awesome. And that for us just kind of looks like washing veggies when we get home, cutting things up, putting them in containers so they're kind of ready to go, and then just kind of organizing stuff in our fridge so things that we need to use are kind of at eye level and easy to grab. So does anyone have a routine with when they meal plan? We're pretty lax with our meal planning, I will say. I never really grew up in a house where we like had a very rigid meal plan, and I think having some flexibility can also be helpful too. So
I think for me, if I may speak right now,
yeah.
For me, it's like I can't set up a certain day because I don't know if I'm going to have enough spoons that day. So when I have enough spoons, I feel like I can do it now, and I'll do it now. And time, if I have the grocery items to do the meal prepping, then I'll do it. If I don't, then the ADHD kicks in and I try, you know, it's just a never ending cycle, but it really depends on the spoons I have on this big day.
Yeah. And I think accommodating for that or adjusting to that, like where you're at, really helps too. So and giving yourself permission, like, hey, if I have a week where I've got very low spoons, like I'm gonna pick maybe very simple things to meal plan this week, or maybe I might utilize more like takeout or some things I can like reheat, and just know that there's going to be another week where I have more spoons and I will cook and do more things for myself and not beat myself up for like, hey, I just don't have the spoons for this week. And that's, you know, and that's okay. And then keeping it simple. So I look for, if I'm looking for new recipes, I try and pick recipes, like look for like 5 ingredient recipes or something like that, where there's not a ton of ingredients, because I'll always find these beautiful like food blogger recipes. And then I go look at how many ingredients it is. And I'm like, there's 20 ingredients in this recipe. This is not going to happen. So I've had to learn over time that at the beginning of the pandemic, I had a really good lesson where I went through my Pinterest and picked out like 2 weeks worth of meals that I was going to make. And I never made any of them before. And then I ended up probably only making 2 or 3 out of the like 10 that I picked and bought groceries for. So I had to learn that like, hey, we use simple ingredients and we don't pick too many new meals every week to make, because that's just a lot of spoons for me. picking recipes with like little prep or cooking utensils. So like one pot meals, sheet pan meals, instant pot or like slow cooker things, because that can help kind of minimize the cleanup. So if you find you don't enjoy the cleanup part, or that kind of becomes a barrier to cooking again, considering things that don't utilize a lot of utensils in the cooking process. Yes, I love that. Yeah, making food. Yeah, I always call it like assembling, because I'd use a lot of more convenient style things like a 90-second bag of rice and like some frozen veggies and things like that. And so yeah, it is kind of just putting it all together. And then finding go-to recipes and being okay with like recycling through recipes. If we don't, I think sometimes we think we always need variety and having like a different meal every single day of the week, every month. And that can just be exhausting. So being okay with like, hey, if there's certain meals I really like, I can cycle through some of those and then add in some new ones here and there, versus every night of the week or every meal of the day has to be something new and different each day of the week, because it's also just a lot of groceries to buy too if you're planning like 7 different breakfasts, lunches, and dinners, and they're all different. And like we mentioned a little bit earlier, just kind of matching your energy or executive function with what you're cooking. So if you know it's a lower spoons day, maybe not, probably being aware enough of that to be like, hey, I'm not going to come home and make this elaborate meal from scratch that takes 2 hours to make, because it probably will end up not happening. And then it's not good to, you know, not eat because we don't have anything prepared. So with visual aids, you could find like putting your meal planner, if you do like assign a day of the week for meals, and hanging that somewhere where you can see it in the kitchen. My partner and I, we use a whiteboard. And so we don't necessarily, we do lunches and dinners on our lunches and breakfast on our own, but dinners we write out like, hey, here's our dinners for the week. And then the day of, we can pick which one of those we want. So we kind of utilize our whiteboard to remind us of what we planned out. I've had some of my clients who I've created visual menus for, and you could totally do this on your own too, based off our Nutrition 911 plan that we do today. But basically, creating a visual menu sometimes can be helpful if you maybe haven't planned anything out, but maybe things you know you typically have on hand and you struggle with deciding what to eat. Sometimes having a visual of foods that you do like, some of my clients have found that helpful to kind of get your brain going, because sometimes you can stare at your pantry or your fridge and you're like, there's food in here, but I can't like get from the ingredients to an actual meal. So having that visual, sometimes my clients have found helpful of like, here's the things I know that I typically like or enjoy, and that can kind of get you going with things. Does anyone use any visual aids?
I do.
Sorry, Laura, go ahead.
I take 3x5 note cards and I write the go-to food creation, assemblage, whatever we want to call it, on one side, and on the other side I write the main ingredients, so that I can quickly flip and see like, do I have these things that aren't necessarily staples in the house or not. I'm thinking of adding the spoons to the front, like this is a 1 spoon meal, this is a 2 spoon meal, that kind of thing. And so at the beginning of the week I'll pull out what sounds good right now, and I'll use magnets to put those on the fridge so that I can just look at it and see what the options are.
Nice. That's really cool. I like that.
A really great idea. So my problem is I've got 2 kids, and both of them have very different sensory eating requirements. And then I have a husband who has a different requirement. So like, I have to cook something that is acceptable with everyone. And I feel like planning takes a lot more spoons, actually whipping something up. So I do have planners. I don't really use them, but I feel like I should start using them, because using them would make my life so much easier.
Yeah. Do you have any like meals that kind of cross over, or you know, kind of are crowd pleasers?
Well, sometimes what I do is me and my husband, we eat one certain thing together, and I make something that both of them like. So it's usually 2 things in one. And that is more doable than cooking one separate meal for every different person. So like, person has to compromise every day or week. So it has to be alternate. So we can alternate stuff. So if one person compromises on day one, the second day, the other person would do that. So that's how.
Sure. Yeah. No, I think when I was a kid, me and my sister both were a little bit more of selective eaters. And we ate a very minimal group of food. So my parents definitely had like some meals were like their meals. And then we had our own little more like kid meals or safe foods that we knew that like my mom knew that we would eat them. So we're going to make the, chicken tenders and mac and cheese. If that means that that's what's actually going to get eaten versus being like, we're going to make fish. And Becca does not ever eat fish. Now I do, but when I was a kid, I did not. So it's not one of those things. Getting others involved can be really helpful too. And this can help accommodate for people's sensory preferences as well. So sitting down either as a family, if you have a roommate and you guys cook together, or a partner, including them in the meal planning process. So I don't think it should just be one person's full responsibility if you are cooking for others, or if everyone's kind of involved in the process too. It kind of helps everyone feel included too, and like that their preferences are being, acknowledged as well. If you don't cook or have anyone else that is involved in that process, maybe body doubling with a friend or someone to like just meal plan together of like, hey, let's go grab a coffee and sit and meal plan together. And you can talk about meals you might want to make, or ask someone to be like an accountability buddy, like text them, hey, I'm going to meal plan. Can you text me, or can I text you to let you know that I did it, or something like that, just so that way it gets done as well. So I know I used to, I find it really helpful with my partner to sit and just be like, hey, is there anything you really want to eat this week? Is there anything I really want to eat this week? Or are there like new things we want to try? And it can kind of help it not take some of the pressure off of having to do it for yourself or for everyone. So. And with creating a meal plan, obviously, like I mentioned earlier, that grocery list can be helpful afterwards. And I have kind of some visuals I'll show you guys in a second. But thinking about what meals you're having this week, what ingredients from those meals you already have on hand. So like Laura's little flashcards, or flipping them back, you can kind of see if there's staples you typically have on hand. Ooh, I love overnight oats. That's my version of meal prepping. If you may be thinking about too, if you need to go to multiple stores, like if there's certain things you can only get. I know like Aldi's is a store sometimes that's really great, but it doesn't always have all the ingredients we think it for things. So I've planned out meals and then gone there, and then they don't have all the vegetables I need for the recipe. So I'm like, now I have to go somewhere else. So I always have learned how to have to accommodate for those things. Or if you might go to the store multiple times a week. So some of my clients have found it helpful where they might have a day where they restock on kind of their staples or some of the like things they typically eat. And then if there's recipes during the week where they might need certain ingredients, they'll stop at the store, that day and pick it up or something like that. So it just can be kind of figuring out your preferences with that. Like my parents don't meal plan, and that's kind of their style, where they'll Sunday or Saturday, they'll restock what they typically use. And then throughout the week, if they need to go pick up like a protein or some sort of fresh veggie or something, they'll go do that. So it doesn't require you to spend as much time maybe at the grocery store or having to remember to get a big long list of a ton of things, because that can be overwhelming. So. And this could be just a way of writing out your meals. So you could make a little chart like this every week if you wanted to. If there's certain meals you might have the same thing for or repeat often, you can kind of just already kind of put those in every week. I know for me, my breakfast and lunches, I have like 2 or 3 things I rotate through most of the time. And then dinners for me are my like variety meal. And that just works easier for my brain because there's less decisions that way versus making new breakfasts every single day. I've made the same breakfast probably for the past few years, and that's just easy to rotate through those, and I enjoy them. So, and then based off this list, you could write out your meals each day and then put what items you need in at the bottom. Another way you could do it is writing out what you're going to have and then making a grocery list based on those ingredients, because there might be things that cross over. Like if you are making a recipe that uses maybe you have different, how do I say this? Sorry. Maybe you have like a lunch that uses similar ingredients from dinner in another day. So you might have to pick up like, oh, I need to get 2 cans of corn because we're going to use one in this recipe and one in another. You can kind of quantify how much you need of things. And that way you make sure you get the right amount so you don't get home and then you're cooking and like, oh, I need to get more of this, or I didn't get enough of that. And that is frustrating when you're like right in the middle of cooking and you're like, how am I supposed to go to the store right now because there's something on the stove cooking? So this can help kind of make sure you actually get all of the things you need. If there's stores you go to a lot, I kind of visualize. I like Trader Joe's because it's small and Aldi's because it's smaller, but I could kind of visualize walking through the aisles. And so I'll make my grocery list kind of as I go through those different aisles. And that way, for the most part, I don't miss things that way. If I write it in kind of the order I walk the grocery store most of the time, helps a little bit too. Because luckily, except for when they change up, Trader Joe's likes to change up the layout of their store every once in a while. And then they like moved the cheese and the chicken in my store and recently, and I'm like, and I overheard them talking about reorganizing it again. I was like, no, I just got down like where everything is. Please don't change it. Does anyone have any strategies they use for making grocery lists?
I've actually given up on grocery shopping. I decided that an accommodation that I needed was grocery delivery. And that was a big shift to admit that like that was something that was going to be drastically helpful, but it really is. And so I pull up last week's cart and I just look through the cart and I see what I got last time and I just mostly add them over. And then I only have to think about what's new and different for the week and it shows up. So that's been really helpful.
Yeah, it took me a few tries to give myself permission to do it. I was like, the grocery store's not that far away. Like, it's just me. I should be able, I kept shooting myself about it. Like, I should be able to go to the grocery store. And I was like, but the amount of time I save, and it feels to me extra productive when I'm like, do order groceries, I can like go do something else. And then, like you said, it just shows up at the door and it's like, cool, I actually cleaned my house while someone else was grocery shopping for me, or I put my laundry away, or I went for a walk, versus exhausting myself. And then normally for me, I can't do the prep piece. When I lived alone, I couldn't do the prep piece if I went to the grocery store. So like doing the grocery ordering meant that I had the energy to be able to like prep things when I got to my house. And I was excited, like, ooh, all these things are here. Yeah, I could clean it and do this and that because someone else did it for me. So yeah, I definitely love grocery delivery. I'm really grateful that exists now. And if it's not feasible for you if like the extra cost from delivery, if that's a little too expensive for you, most stores will do free pickup. So you won't have to pay more to pick things up that way. So you might still have to drive there, but you can still let someone do the bulk of the work for you. So Samar, do you have a question?
No, I just wanted to add that I was under the impression that grocery delivery is going to be expensive as well. But when I go into the store without a list, I end up buying so many extra things that usually get expired in the pantry or the refrigerator. And I waste so much money and produce that way. And so I was thinking just to pay a little bit, more in delivery and not lose all that produce and pantry items and waste all that money. And just spend a little more on the delivery, and that really helps. So accommodation.
I think it helps with impulsivity too. At least for me, I can see the cart adding up and then I can kind of go back and, if there's certain things that's like, yeah, I probably don't need this, or that was a little bit of a splurge item. It's awkward at the store to be like, actually, I'm going to take these things back. I don't want them. So like, it's nice to like be able to look through before you buy things. And I find I don't forget as many items. I usually forget at least one item if I go to the store by myself. Or I'll have my partner text me the grocery list. I found that's really helpful to get it via text for some reason. I find it easier versus if I bring a list, if I make a paper list, it probably will get left on my counter or it doesn't quite make it. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, the sensory overload. I got some headphones recently or some like noise canceling or reducing headphones. So I want to try them out at the store to see if they help. But yeah, the lights even in the grocery store are just like sometimes, yeah, and too many people. I can't do it sometimes. I try to pick times when I go to the grocery store. If you do go, if you have the flexibility to try and pick like not peak times, like Saturday afternoon, or I'll go during professional football season. I'll go when our team is playing, and the grocery store is, because I live where the Panthers play, so it will be, I figured out if I go during their home games, it is very nice on Sunday and no one is in the grocery store, and it's like heaven. So finding times of the day too that aren't maybe like peak hours can be really nice too, if you find being around a lot of people overwhelming. So with the pick 3 meal planning, you kind of first want to make a little meal recipe bank, and you could do that with note cards like Laura had mentioned. And then to make that recipe bank, the first time you do that, you might want to set a timer for 30 minutes and write out, meals that you typically make and what ingredients go with that. And then each week you would set a timer for 20 to 30 minutes, look at your schedule to see, are there days maybe where I am going to be really busy, or maybe I know when I get home, I'm going to be too tired to make a big elaborate meal. See what you already have on hand, so you don't buy extra of things that you already have. And then you can pick 3 or 4 meals for each meal. So you could do that for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, or you could just do it for dinners and then plan to make some that have leftovers. If you're a leftovers person, I know some people for sensory reasons can't do leftovers. But if you do find leftovers helpful, making some extra, so maybe those days when you are maybe really busy or have a stressful day, you can just come home and reheat those leftovers versus maybe having to cook something that day. And then you can assign meals the day of, or a certain day, or you can just decide the day of. I find deciding the day of a little bit easier because for whatever reason, my brain will reject. If I say, hey, we're having tacos on Tuesday, I'll get to Tuesday. I'm like, man, I really want the pasta that I planned, but that's not Tuesday, so I can't have it. And I'm like, no, you can eat the thing that actually sounds good versus forcing yourself to make a meal that's you're not going to enjoy that day. So this could be kind of just an example of like what a recipe bank could look like of creating these things. You could do it in some sort of computer document style, or you could do it pen and paper, whichever way you prefer or find easy. And if I find new recipes I also kind of have a little binder of all of, like if I find a recipe in a magazine or some of my family recipes too, my mom has printed out for me. So I kind of have a little binder of all of my recipes so I can refer back to them, especially like some of my old family recipes. That's nice to have all those in one place where it's like, mom, instead of having to text my mom all the time, like, can you send me the recipe for that pasta dish or your banana bread? It all exists in one spot so I can find it, which is nice. And I've done that with meal kits too. I did HelloFresh for a period of time, and I saved the little recipe cards they would give you when you got it delivered. So that way, just the ones I really liked, so I could recreate those recipes on my own when I wasn't using HelloFresh anymore. And then consider meal prepping. Like I said, spending your whole Sunday prepping something for a lot of ADHD-ers is not always what works, and that's okay. So different types of meal prepping could just be maybe washing and cutting or chopping, fruits or veggies and putting them, away, or using shortcuts for those if you do like buying maybe pre-cut or frozen versions of those. But that could be one version of like, hey, I'm just going to do this piece of the meal prep process. So later this week, when I need to make a recipe, everything's already kind of ready to go and I just have to cook it. It could be batch cooking proteins or starches for the week. So I've had clients who will make like oatmeal. They'll do like an Instapot thing of oatmeal, so it's ready for the week, and then add their toppings, in the morning. Or protein, I do batch cook like chicken for my salads for the week, but that's about all I'll prep because that's all I have usually the executive function for, and that's totally okay. You can also consider using like a meal prep service. So some of the like HelloFresh, there's one called Gobble. They're like a middle of the road, so they'll do all the chopping and prep work for you, and then you just have to heat the food up and assemble it. Or you can get some too that will make you fresh meals. I've had clients use that, especially for if they're relying a little bit more on takeout, and it's getting food delivered is very expensive. So considering one of the services, sometimes it ends up being a lot cheaper than if you order your food, could get it delivered all the time. I had a client who was spending like $20 a day during like his work week on either like Chick-fil-A or Five Guys, and was like, it's just not worth it, and ended up getting the like factor meals, I believe is what they were. And he's like, I pay $10 now instead of 20, and I actually get some vegetables and like lean proteins, and it's just a little bit better, like a little bit more balanced nutritionally than having, some fast food every day. And he's like, I feel much better eating, getting in some of those foods too. So does anyone do any kind of meal prepping? And it's totally okay if you don't.
I try to always have one thing that I'm okay with eating as a leftover, because I'm one of the questionable leftover people for both histamine and sensory reasons.
Yeah.
So like this past week, my mom and I made a Polish potato salad that has eggs and vegetables in it. And it's something that tends to just stay the same in the fridge for at least a week. So I can have that as a snack. I can toast bread and have it on a sandwich. So it's there are no spoons, but you have to eat something kind of thing. I try to have at least one of those.
Yeah, we rotate through like a pasta salad, and then we have like a chickpea salad that we'll make. And it's so nice when I need something quick, I can grab it. And it just feels really good because I know it will taste good and I enjoy it, but I don't have to. But anytime if it's in between work calls, I'm like, cool, I have 5 minutes to eat, which means I can literally put this in a bowl and eat it really quickly. And that's better than nothing. So overnight oats. Ooh. That sounds really good, Samar. But yes, I think having one of those things, or like even giving yourself permission to have some like quick little convenience options too that don't require a lot of prep, that you can just open and eat, can be super helpful. Setting reminders too. I'm really bad about remembering to defrost things. I used to, as a kid, my mom would be like, hey, can you take the chicken out while I go pick your sister up from school? And I'd be like, yeah. And we could totally forget until I would hear the garage door open, and then I'd run into the kitchen and take the chicken out. But you can use alarms to remind you if you know, like, hey, there's a recipe that does require me to do this in advance, setting an alarm. Or if there are certain ingredients you need to use, you could use reminders. I've also used my whiteboard on my fridge for that too in the past. If I have like chicken or Greek yogurt or something like that I know is going to go bad and I need to use it or put it in the freezer, I'll write the food and the expiration date. So it's like, hey, make sure you do something with this so you don't end up just throwing it away in the trash afterwards. And different types of alarms or reminders, you could use your phone. I've had clients use their, like, if they have a Alexa or one of those little smart home devices, use that to set alarms or reminders. Or if you have a smartwatch, that's another option for reminders or alarms, or even putting in like a calendar reminder for you if you are someone who does use like a Google Calendar or something like that, can be helpful. So does anyone use reminders for anything cooking wise or meal planning? No. Has anyone considered it before?
Honestly, I've never considered it as well.
Yeah, I've used, or I should say my whiteboard comes in handy because I can write whatever I want on there. So I'll also write just like, hey, before I forget that I need to add this item to the grocery list, I'll write those things down too.
I will, when something beeps at me, it creates a, I don't want to do that kind of response.
Yeah.
So I don't use reminders in that way, but I will do like your equivalent of the whiteboard note, and I'll do visual reminder. So I tend to keep my space looking pretty similarly all the time. So if I put something in a place where it's not expected, it'll cue me. So like I will take the rice cooker out and put it right in the middle of the kitchen table, and that will remind me that I needed to start rice before the end of the day. So that kind of thing.
Yeah. I've had clients do something similar to with things they need to pick up at the grocery store. They'll like, once they empty out like the box or whatever it is, they'll leave it. They have a little spot where they'll leave those things so that when they go make their grocery list, it's like, here's all the things I've already used up and need to get more of, and just make the list based off of like what kind of collects over time. But that's really smart. So that way you're not like, oh yeah, what was I gonna make today? I don't remember. It's like, oh yeah, that's the thing. So. And then with considering gentle nutrition, making sure that ideally when we are making a meal, for the most part, I will say, trying to include our 3 macronutrients at meals. So some sort of protein, some sort of carbohydrate, ideally maybe something more higher in fiber, some fats, and then maybe some fruits and or vegetables, depending on the meal. And then snacks, generally picking 2 of 3 of our macronutrients. So maybe having a protein and a carb at a snack, or maybe a carb and a fat at a snack, or maybe a protein and fat at a snack. And then that'll help to keep you full for a little bit longer. And you can also include in, fruits or veggies there. Fruits generally would be considered a carb. Veggies, it kind of just depends on the vegetable, whether or not it'll be a carb or not. But generally, just trying to make sure we're kind of checking off those different categories of food. So we make sure that we're getting in all the different nutrients that come from those different places. So this is what we'll do with our little activity. So we're going to ideally pick 3 or 4 different things for each meal. If we have time, we'll do the second page with snacks. But I'm going to share, I have a PDF that I'll share with you guys. So it will be a PDF you can fill out. But if we want to start with breakfast, does anyone have a go-to breakfast? And you can put what spoons it is for you. I know that'll be different for everyone.
The 3 go-to breakfasts.
Yes.
Is boiled eggs with salsa.
No.
Only 1 spoon. And the other one is overnight oats, 1 spoon.
Yeah.
And the last one that takes 3 spoons is a chicken leg quarter with an omelet and salsa. Also, that takes 3 spoons, but that's my favorite of the lot.
Yogurt bowl. I've never had dates with yogurt, but that sounds super yummy. And then, do you guys have any go-to lunches? Leftovers is fun sometimes, that I will do. When I lived alone, that was kind of how I meal prepped when I had to go into the hospital. I would make dinner and make an extra portion for myself and then just bring that to work the next day. Made it a lot easier. Ooh, Jay, that sounds really good. Yeah, lunch tends to be, I call lunch the forgotten meal because for a lot of my clients, it's the one. Breakfast will get skipped too, but lunch tends to be one that kind of gets looked over. Nice. I've done any sort of like sandwich or like a wrap. I'll get like some sort of high fiber bread or high fiber wrap and do that. Or a salad kit. Rotisserie chicken is one of my like go-to proteins because it's super simple. So I'll get a cooked rotisserie chicken and then I can use it in a bunch of different things. And that makes it easy. I know some of my clients like snack plates they'll do for lunch. So kind of like a adult Lunchable style kind of thing. Can be something easy. And if you like a lot of variety or kind of different things, it's kind of nice because you can pick and choose. Yes, tapas. I love, that's my best friend and I, we're both ADHD-ers. And so we both can never decide what we want to eat. So we try to go to tapas places when we go out to eat so we could get a little bit of everything and share, which makes that fun. Ooh, veggie bowls. I agree. Yeah, chopping can take up a lot of spoons. That's why I like, if I do have the executive function, I can chop things up in advance. It is really nice during the week to just get to grab the vegetables, but it doesn't always happen. So, that sounds really good. Laura, do you have a type of gluten-free pasta you like?
It's not the fanciest brand, but honestly, I like Ronzini's.
Okay.
Or type. It's got some corn in it. It has actual, it gets closer to al dente, and which is something I miss.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say that's like 1.5 spoons. That's as long as I can remember to roast the tomatoes 20 minutes in advance, then it's very easy.
Nice. Yeah, I feel like pasta tends to be something that can be low spoons. I've even found Barilla has it, and all these used to have it in their organic brand of like microwavable pasta. So it was like 1-minute pasta. I don't think they had gluten-free options, but it was actually pretty tasty. I was surprised, and I thought there'd be a lot of things. I was like, how do they pre-cook? Like, how do you make this so it only cooks in the microwave in a minute? And surprisingly, it was just all the regular things you'd find in pasta. So I was kind of surprised. Does anyone ever do like breakfast for dinner? Nice. Yeah. I do a lot of like stir fries or things that you can do like a combination kind of dish, because it's nice to kind of switch it up. So I can swap out, do different veggie blends and some sort of protein. So I can switch it out between like chicken or tofu or shrimp. Yeah, that's another meal planning hack, is giving yourself permission to not stick with like what we have in our head as like this food has to be eaten at this certain time of the day. Of like, I can have, I had a salad for breakfast the first time I did it. It was like, what? I was like, I'm really craving fresh vegetables. And I was like, and nothing I normally eat for breakfast has that. And I was like, but I do have this Asian salad. So I ended up making that for breakfast, and it was so good. But it was kind of, I felt so rebellious eating a salad for breakfast because it's not like a quote unquote normal breakfast, but it's fun. Ooh, homemade pizza is fun too. That's a fun one to do with the kids too. Or getting to like, everyone can make their either like your own version, or everyone can kind of make, add the toppings that they like, which is fun. Or I'll dress up like a regular frozen pizza with some extra veggies or things like that. If it's just like a cheese or something like that, it makes it more tasty. How many spoons would you say pizza is?
I'd say it's a lot of spoons to make the crust in advance.
Yeah.
But actually the day of, it's like half a spoon.
Yeah. We'll give it like a 2. And then any go-to snacks? Carrots and hummus is my like all-time low effort, and I know that I will like it because I like smooth, crunchy combo, and I can get different flavors of hummus so I don't get bored. Ooh, jalapeno chips are good. Ooh. What are pupusas?
Pupusas are a corn flour with cheese and cilantro and spices on the inside. They're another thing that takes a little bit of extra spoon at the beginning, but if I just make them all at once in the freezer, I have no energy at all today. I will just stand over this pan for 3 minutes on each side and then eat.
Yep.
And they're really good with pickled vegetables. So I just keep a jar of pickled vegetables in the back of the fridge because it never goes bad. So then I can do that with it.
Super tasty. Yeah, that sounds delicious. Yeah, I like getting at the grocery store, I'll get and like Trader Joe's will get like a pre-made dough. So I don't have to make it. Trying to think of other snacks that I do. Apple and peanut butter, yeah, cheese. Ooh. I like to do cheese and then apple is fun because then I get like the different flavors, and then I always need a little bit of crunch to like get me satisfied. Ooh, those are good ones too. Ooh, you put sriracha on the nuts? Yum, that's fun. I like the I tried to make my own version of them, but it didn't work. But I made like the wasabi soy almonds. I tried to make my own version of it, but it didn't turn out the way I thought it would.
If you guys go to Walmart, they have their own brand of nuts, and
Yeah.
one of their cashews is flavored honey sriracha, and it is amazing. It's
That
really
sounds really good. I like sriracha. That's one of my favorite. I had a little mini, I lost it in true fashion, a little mini like sriracha thing so I could take it with me places, like a little keychain, but it didn't make it. Ooh, dark chocolate pretzels are super tasty though. So maybe good occasional snacks. They're not our have all the time, but sometimes when we need something a little maybe on the sweeter side. Ooh, popcorn's another good one. Ooh, I've never tried egg salad and curry mixed together, but that sounds super tasty. How many spoons would you guys give Baba Ganoush? There's other sections for takeout and like low, no appetite. Oh, nice. Yeah, there's some salad little things. I like checking the deli at different places to see what they have of pre-made stuff because it just makes it a little bit easier sometimes. Like tabbouleh, I like getting pre-made. And guac. Guac's fun to make, but I very rarely actually want to make it. So I will send this out so you guys have that, but I figured I'll leave a little bit of time for any questions if anyone has any.
Okay, you mentioned you had those suggestions of meal prepping. Would you be sharing those with us?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Awesome.
And I can share those with you and share all the slides too. Yeah, because there's some that can be easier meal prep, like your overnight oats are a good one. Of maybe a meal prep that can feel doable. Some of my friends will do the overnight oats. They'll make like 5 of them for the week because they can keep them in there for a little bit more time. So they'll do all of them at once. So they only have to make that one night, and then they can have them, throughout the week.
You can do that?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I didn't know. I thought overnight oats are supposed to be for one night only.
Yeah, they can last because I have a friend who, she's also a dietitian. She does hers, like she'll make them on Sundays and then eat them throughout the week. So.
Oh my God, that makes my life so much easier. Thank you.
Doing jarred cooked meals. What would those look? What is an example of those? Are those like the little like jarred salads and things like that?
I've seen jarred salads. I've seen like ramen, like deconstructed
Yeah.
ramen, so then you only have to add the hot water, things like that.
That would be fun.
Yeah, they look like they require a lot of executive functioning at the beginning, and then maybe once you have them down, they are easy, but I've been a little daunted to try.
Yeah. I have a few of them saved of like maybe one day I will try these on my Pinterest board, but I haven't. Ooh. I do like to use like the Instant Pot can be a nice one to like. Instant Pot and air fryer are two great appliances if you don't remember to thaw things very well, because you can cook from frozen in both an air fryer and Instant Pot pressure cooker, which is nice because I'm never good at that. So it's nice to have that option if you do forget, like I can just throw them in there. That makes sense. Or there's things I use a lot of like frozen veggies and things, or I'll save, if they're on sale, I'll like stock up on a bunch of them. And then if I have a meal where maybe I just it doesn't have any vegetables in it or something, I'll heat something up and just add it on the side. So I still get some fiber and micronutrients in, but I didn't have to cook it in my meal. So.
Any tips for when appetite goes away?
Yes. So I try to view, if I don't have an appetite, I think trying to view eating as just an act of self-care. And maybe something is better than nothing is usually the mindset I will encourage for my clients of like, I'd rather maybe it's not the most nutritious thing, but it's what sounds good, or even sounds edible. That can help. Or sometimes having a snack, like if you don't have a big appetite, trying to just eat something small. And sometimes that can kind of get your appetite going. And then you might, especially if you're already at that point of being really hungry, sometimes that can also kind of help get our blood sugar back up and give us a little bit of fuel to maybe actually make something more substantial. So sometimes if I know, in the past when I lived alone, I would wait until I was really hungry to cook sometimes. And then I'd be like, I can't even get through the process of cooking. I'd be like, okay, let's have a little snack. Like let's have some carrots and hummus or chips and salsa. And then it would actually like, it would curb my hunger. And then I'd be like, oh, I can actually make a meal now. This feels good. So sometimes that can help too. Kind of getting your appetite going. Smelling food too, or like good smelling food, sometimes that can help get your appetite going. And then again, that like nutrition 911 plan, if you do come up, do your own of writing, maybe some of the things, most of the time you can tolerate or you enjoy, or simple and bland things too can be something to consider. If you don't have a big appetite, because sometimes big like flavors and tastes can be a little bit overwhelming sometimes. So those like, maybe it's what some of my clients will label as quote unquote kids food. So they're like, maybe I know I can have like chicken tenders. I know that those are something I could get down, or like mac and cheese or something like that can be a little bit easier. So
I love the just have a snack idea, because I think it often happens when I've passed hunger with like hyper focus with work or something. And so reminding my body that we have the energy to actually go forth and find food is
yeah. I always, I'm like, it's an appetizer, because it's just getting me ready. It's okay. Yeah, that one works really well. I need to look. I can find the answer for you. I will say, I will follow up and let you know the answer, because that is one. Sometimes I think it happens depending on if we wait too long, again, to like wait to eat, like if we wait till we're ravenous to make food, and then sometimes our appetite just gets crushed and it's like that no longer sounds good. And for some people, I've noticed for some of my clients, it's like almost handling the food and doing a lot of work with it almost makes it unappealing for some reason, versus like, they'll be like, if someone else made me the food, I would be perfectly fine with doing it. But once I make the food, and even if it's something I like, by the end of the meal, I'm not really, like, by the time it's ready to eat, I just lose interest in it. So yeah.
That happens to me too. Whenever I have a big dinner, I cook, and when the guests are here, they're like, why are you not eating anything? No, but I don't feel hungry because I've been cooking and all these things, and I don't know, maybe it's because I taste test a lot too.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if you're like taste testing, sometimes
Yeah.
that kind of make food not appealing, or it's like, cool, I already ate a little bit as I was going. Or if sometimes when we're around a lot of people too, it's interesting because the research shows generally the more people around, the more we eat. But I think it can depend on the person, because I know for I think a lot of neurodivergent folks, that's not the case. I think maybe for neurotypicals, maybe that is. I find it's like how comfortable you are with those people too. So like if it's a really big group of people and you aren't always like comfortable around them, sometimes it might not feel safe to eat. So we can lose our appetite there. There's nothing wrong with taste testing when we're cooking though, because if we do, you always have to figure out what's missing or what you might need to add a little bit more of when you're cooking, especially if you don't follow a recipe like precisely. Sometimes you need to like figure out what it might need more or less of. So awesome. Well, thank you guys for being here, and obviously for you guys for hosting this.
Of course, thank you for all of your insights. This was really useful today.
Yay.
Thank you so much, everyone. I'm gonna miss you all. Becca,
Yeah.
having more of these things with you, hopefully in
Yes.
the future. John, I do remember you reaching out to us, and I'm sorry I haven't been able to respond. But if you plan anything in Germany and you'd like Becca to do it, we would be, honored to host that program for you virtually, because we can't do it in Germany, of course. So, if I don't know if you're familiar, but Dr. Weldon here, she is an expert on autistic burnout, and she does adult autism assessments as well. So if you need any of those resources as well for Germany, we would love to help with that as well. With that being said, I think, Laura, it's time to wrap up. So thank you so much, everyone. Laura, any parting words or advice? Becca, you too, parting words, advice.
I would say when it comes to meal planning, just give yourself permission to explore and figure out what works for you. And that like, sometimes it's going to fluctuate and change too, based on like what season of life we're in. And like, sometimes things will work for a while, and then we'll have to kind of change it up a little bit. And that does not mean you're failing at meal planning or anything like that. It might just be that like circumstances or things have changed. Like I know when I, finished grad school and then started actually working, like my strategies for meal planning and all of that definitely changed, because my schedule and all of my like day-to-day changed. And so I just kind of had to work and adjust kind of that system that I had figured out that worked for me. So I think giving yourself the freedom and flexibility and just being kind to yourself too, if, it's a challenge. And some weeks if it doesn't happen or it's not perfect, or what you want it to be, that's okay too. So.
Yeah, I would echo all of everything that's been said today. But I guess for me, I think about whenever I'm trying a new strategy, so there are new ideas in this presentation to take on, I think of it like an experiment. Like we're going to try this, we're going to use willpower to try something new for 1 to 2 weeks. And then if at the end of 2 weeks, it's still requiring that much willpower, then something about that system's not the right one for me.
Yeah.
So it's more about like tweaking variables and the experiment not working than me failing and trying a new thing.
That's a really good way to view it, especially not just meal planning, but just taking on new things in life, of seeing it as an experiment. I like that.
And lots of these experiments seem potentially very successful. So thank you for
Well, I can't wait to see how they big out the next time that we meet. And Samar, I will miss you. I hope you have a great time overseas.
Thank you so much for thinking.